Good morning. Welcome everyone to this edition of the CSIA Business Webinar Series Road to the Conference. My name is Holly Lundgren. I'm CSIA's Education Manager. For those of you unfamiliar with CSIA, we are the only trade association focused on advancing the system integration industry. Our vision is to ensure that manufacturing and process industries everywhere have access to low-risk, safe, and successful application of automation technology. To accomplish this, CSIA supports system integrator companies in becoming better businesses. We offer guidance to improve integrator effectiveness with our best practices and benchmarks manual, an open forum to network and learn from other companies, and opportunities to market within the industry. As our members continue to improve their management skills, they can begin to work towards becoming a CSIA certified, an industry standard in SI business excellence. CSIA membership offers members access to resources needed to attain its business goals. These benefits include networking opportunities at the annual executive conference, marketing toolkits, educational materials, and the Industrial Automation Exchange, an online buyer's guide and community that connects end-user clients with system integrators and industry suppliers. Clients in all industries are now seeking integrators with a CSIA certification alongside ISO. They recognize CSIA certified integrators' commitment to industry standards and business acumen. As a result, being certified can shorten the sales cycle. It also means that a supplier's technology is being well represented and greatly reduces the risk of project failure. CSIA certified system integrators generally run better businesses. CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange is the premier automation guide featuring system integrators and suppliers who provide industrial, manufacturing, and process automation solutions. For integrators and suppliers, it's a place to market their expertise. Clients will find white papers, case studies, capabilities, contact information, and engage in conversation directly with CSIA members. For more information on CSIA certification, membership, or the exchange, please contact us at 847-686-2245 or email us at info@staff.controlsys.org. At this time, I would like to introduce Wendy Covey of TREW Marketing, who will guide us through smart marketing for engineers, research insights to guide your 2019 strategy. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here today and for all of you in attendance. So I wanted to start by just briefly introducing myself and my company. TREW Marketing has been in business for close to 11 years, and we are a content and digital marketing agency that specializes in marketing to engineers and technical audiences. We have a long history in the system integration and industrial automation space, and we work with many of your fellow CSIA members. In fact, I recognize many of the names that are joining us today, so thank you for being here. If you'll go ahead and advance to the next slide after this one. Thank you. So today I'll be reviewing highlights from a very recent research report that we launched with the help of IEEE GlobalSpec. And as you well know, companies who target technical audiences grapple with the shift towards online and content marketing and how to apply this approach effectively towards an engineering audience. And to do so, they need to understand, we all need to understand what content engineers consume, why they look for it, and how they find it. And we found that when we founded TREW Marketing 10 or so years ago, that this research didn't exist. You find lots of research on how to do B2B marketing effectively, but we know that engineers are different, they think differently, and thus became the start of this annual research project that we do. In this year's research report, we examine the content, search, and online preferences of today's engineers so that you can help determine how best to engage with this audience and how to distribute your marketing spend in 2019. And we wanted to see differences in age groups and across regions. And so as I go through this research today, you'll hear some of that data included as well. But first, I wanted to walk through the demographics of this study and for you to understand who we talked to and what they comprised. So we surveyed engineers and technical professionals across North America and worldwide in industrial industries. We started with the IEEE GlobalSpec database, which is quite a large sample set, and we asked participants to participate in a brief 9-minute online survey. This data was collected in September, so it's very recent. And we received a total of 354 respondents, which is a nice sample set, so this is statistically relevant data. Let's take a quick look at the respondent demographics. We had a good showing across both North America and around the world, allowing us to show some data by region. Unfortunately, though, our response from the EU was not high enough to be statistically relevant, so they were not included in regional breakouts. The respondents span multiple age ranges, with half falling between 36 and 55 years of age. The majority of respondents hold engineering positions, followed by R&D and general management. Industries were varied across the industrial space, with manufacturing and engineering services making up half of the respondent industries. Respondents are overwhelmingly involved in the purchasing process, either as an influencer or a decision maker. A full 95% of respondents are involved in purchasing in some capacity. So those are the demographics. Let's get into the meat of this presentation today. So today I'll be providing you with data and insight surrounding the top research findings we have listed here. We'll focus on buyer activities, which engineers conduct online, preferred types of content, different content sources, the importance of regularly producing content, the impact of your website on brand perception, and we'll even talk about whether or not engineers are willing to fill out a form, and if so, how many fields and what types of fields they're likely to complete. So let's dive in. Okay, this is your first chart, and there's a lot to see here, so I'll walk through it so you can absorb this. So as you look at this chart, you'll notice it is sorted by the very valuable rating of each content type, or the blue bars to the left. Looking at the blue bars representing very valuable ratings, you can see that 57% of respondents rated supplier vendor websites as very valuable, followed closely by search engines at 55%. There is then a 10-point drop to the third most valuable source for finding information, which is also online, trade publication websites, with 45% rating the source as very valuable. In terms of overall value, we see emails and e-newsletters coming in the fourth spot, with 89% of respondents indicating they are either very or somewhat valuable. I also want you to look at the yellow bars, which shows not very valuable sources of content information. Engineers seem to have some adverse opinions towards chatbots. I expect this will change over time as these grow in adoption by B2B companies and are used in a more personalized manner. But the takeaway for 2019 is to be cautious about investing in this type of platform, and if you do, lean into personalization and steer away from an aggressive or generic approach, which might repel the technical buyer. And I apologize, I just realized the question on this survey is not included in this slide, so that's an oversight. But what we asked is, what is your most valuable source when looking for information about products and services for work projects? So that was the question we asked, and as you can see, the results here. So I apologize. I believe I have a question on the rest. So with that, we'll move on. In here, we asked about the buying process for significant purchases the buyer makes for work, from early research to the final purchase decision. And what we asked is how much of that decision and that research is online, and how much is completed online before they speak with the company. And as you can see, for the majority of engineers, nearly 60% of the buying process happens online, from early research to final purchase decision, before they speak with the company. This data is consistent with the previous 3 years of research we've done, and it emphasizes, of course, the importance of having a strong digital presence. Okay. This is also a question that we've asked for multiple years, and it spurred from this thought that we know engineers think differently and behave differently, and this is a perfect demonstration. Industry data shows that 93% of the population, just the general population, stops at page 1 when they're researching a topic. But the engineer is more likely to search 5 or more pages deep than they are to stop at page 1. This is excellent news for smaller businesses who struggle with reaching page 1 in their results. Many of the search terms that you want to optimize on may be quite popular, particularly with larger companies like Rockwell Automation or Siemens, and you're going to struggle to get on to page 1 and maybe even page 2. But what this demonstrates is that if you have meaty, quality content targeted at specific applications, you can be found in search without spending an arm and a leg to achieve page 1. Okay. The next question has to do with a company's website and buyers' perception of that company as a credible, technically competent vendor. So in other words, if you come to a company's website and they have a pretty crappy presence, what does that say about your brand and the engineer's perception of that company? So 52% of respondents say that a company's website has a considerable impact on perceptions, and only 2% say that it has no impact. So this data point reinforces the importance of having a website that has robust content and product information, and that it accurately reflects who you are as a company. With buyers placing such a high value on your website, you want to uncover ways to drive potential customers to your site so they can fully experience all of your capabilities. And if you think that they're going to overlook poor design or really dated search technology on your website, you are taking a risk. That's what this data shows as well. Okay. Engineers most trust content written by an engineering expert at a vendor company. That means they trust your engineers at your company most when reading content. This next 2 trusted types of content are written by third parties, industry analysts and trade editors. And I find that really interesting that they would rather trust your engineer than a trade editor. And check this out, the least trusted source is an anonymous source at a vendor company. So if you're posting content today and you're not posting who the author is and what their title is at your company, you might be eroding trust rather than building it, which is painful because content is an expensive, time-consuming thing to create. So attribution is very important to engineers. Okay, in this question we asked, how valuable are the following types of content when researching the latest engineering technologies, industry trends, and products and services? And the content type engineers value most is data sheets. This is followed by case studies, where 46% of the engineers rated them as very valuable, and a total of 95% rated it very or moderately valuable. The third most valuable content types when looking at both very and moderately valuable together is white papers, with 90% of engineers rating them as very or moderately valuable respectively. But here's something interesting about this chart. If you look at the not very valuable rating represented by the short yellow bars to the right, you'll see that very few engineers rated any content type as not very valuable. So the big takeaway from this is that there is no silver bullet on what type of content to produce. The reality is engineers need information they can trust to do their jobs and to solve the challenges they are facing. To do content marketing effectively requires producing high quality content on a consistent basis in a diverse set of formats. But there were some interesting takeaways on age and geography. Our research showed that engineers in South America and India, Asia, Russia place more value on case studies as compared to their peers in the US or Canada. And I found that interesting. Also, in regards to age, engineers under 45 place more value on product demos and how-to videos as opposed to their older counterparts. This further illustrates the importance of video in reaching the millennial professional. And I'll tell you, as we ask these questions now multiple years, we're seeing videos grow in importance across all age demographics, but also as we see shifting ages, it'll just continue to grow. So if you haven't brought in video to your content mix, I would strongly suggest that you start. Now the next few questions have to do with e-newsletters. And as you see here, 43% of engineers subscribe to 2 to 3 e-newsletters, and another 43% subscribe to 4 or more. So if you think about what we talked earlier, wanting to stay constant with regard to producing new and relevant content, the e-newsletter remains a valuable and cost-effective channel to get that content in front of your target audience. In terms of age, we see that younger professionals tend to subscribe to 2 to 3 newsletters, while older professionals tend to subscribe to 4 or more. And on the next slide, you'll see that 50% of engineers use subject lines to filter. So when this e-newsletter hits their inbox, they're scanning the subject lines that intrigue them, and they delete the rest of the e-newsletters. We have seen this again in past research. Another 20% of engineers open most or all to scan for content, or sometimes they read every single one because they find all the information important. So the good news is if you create a really good subject line, you have a much better chance of the rest of your message being read. In terms of differences by age, I found it interesting that engineers aged 36 to 45 are more likely than their peers to scan the subject lines and delete the rest, rather than deleting most automatically. So it drives home the importance of monitoring and testing subject lines to reach a greater audience and make sure that you're being effective. And to do this, most robust marketing automation and email tools can be used to test different subject lines, which is called A/B testing, to figure out which is more effective. Okay. Content is seen as a competitive differentiator, and 90% of engineers are more likely to do business with companies that regularly produce new and current content. Now let's talk a little bit about lead forms. This is a debate that we hear quite a bit when we come in. We're working with a client that's new to content marketing, and they're very hesitant to put any information behind a form. But of course, that's an effective means to turn your website into a lead generator. So we very purposely asked this question to have data supporting that yes, it's okay to put meaty content. If it's quality meaty content, it's okay to put it behind a form, but we caution companies not to ask too many things. So here you see what engineers are most likely and least likely to provide on a form. So most likely to provide will be a work email address, company name, first name, and last name. And then you see it drops off from here, job title, product interest, industry, so on and so forth. In terms of age, younger engineers are more likely to complete the top 4 fields, where older engineers are less likely to provide information such as last name. We also find that when it comes to company size, engineers at smaller companies are less likely to complete company name when compared to peers at larger companies. But we find that on the whole, the behavior is this: if you're providing quality content, people are willing to give you more, and that people don't want to go beyond 4 or 5 fields. So a good tactic to use is smart forms or progressive profiling forms. So with smart forms, if you already have information about a person, you're not asking for it again, and you have the opportunity to autofill that, so someone could go in and download the next asset, or you can use progressive profiling, where if you ask 3 fields the first time, well, the second time they come back, you'll ask 3 new things, and you can start to build out more and more information about that lead. Okay. Now we'll get into a few research data points on the buyer's journey. So when we asked, in thinking about your purchase decision process for a significant product or service for work, how many interactions do you typically have with a vendor before communicating with them directly? And as you can see here, 52% of engineers have an average of 3 to 4 interactions, while 11% have 5 interactions or more. So let's think about that. How many times do you need to get someone to your website or to your trade show booth or to open up your e-newsletter before they're willing to connect with you one-on-one? It's at least 3 interactions, if not more. And we find that for industrial and electronic products, the number is on the higher end of the spectrum. So this research is providing validation that just because someone clicked on a download and we captured their information, it doesn't mean they're ready to buy something. Sometimes what will happen is the moment someone fills out a form, our sales force will jump right on that lead, and then sales will complain about how marketing is generating leads that aren't qualified, or they maybe say, marketing leads suck. And so we need to understand this as marketers and create multi-touch campaigns and avenues to build trust, nurture those leads, and qualify them for sales, and get sales help to do that. And we'll talk about that a little bit in just a moment. Okay. When engineers are in the buying process for a new product or service at work, they rely on online research, talking to colleagues, and watching product videos. And as we saw in the previous slide and in this one too, only 14% prefer to talk to a salesperson early in their research. And this is just a behavioral trend that now engineers have access to more content and more data at their fingertips. They want to explore their options and narrow down their choices before reaching out to vendor companies. It further reinforces the importance of content and online presence. And then finally, when should sales engage with prospects? So here we get very specific on the different phases of the buyer's journey and which places someone's doing online, usually online, sometimes online, and seldom online. And so you can see by the dark blue bar, and that's how this slide is arranged, mostly online research for learning about a topic, researching prices, and then it starts to drop, and I'm surprised that it didn't drop further when it says qualify which vendors meet my requirements and narrow down to a short list of vendors I will consider. So now you understand what engineers are expecting in terms of the buyer's journey when they come to their website. So when you think about the content that you create, it needs to cover each of these topics and help that engineer get to the point where they have a short list of vendors. And then obviously to define requirements, now they're starting to seek salespeople and wanting to have more of those one-on-one conversations. Okay, so when I think about all of these research highlights here today, here are some implications for your 2019 marketing plan. The first is to encourage sales and marketing collaboration. Never before have we seen so much independent research on behalf of the engineer, and that puts a lot of pressure on marketing to come up with the right content along the buyer's journey. And quite frankly, marketing people who've been only tasked with gathering leads near the top of the funnel might not have the knowledge to know what content is appropriate, what messages are appropriate, and so it requires deeper engagement with sales to brainstorm about what are the right pieces of content, who are the audience personas, what should our content plan be in order to meet the buyer at each of these stages. Also, when visitors first find your website, you have precious little time to make an impression. If you do not have a clear and differentiated message about your company and the solutions you offer, you may quickly lose the very visitors you work so hard to attract. So when you're thinking about 2019, if you suspect that you have some issues in your messaging, this might be a very important thing to address. This can be addressed through interviewing your most valued clients, maybe interviewing people who chose not to go with your company and why that was, and of course doing internal interviews about your brand position and differentiation. And the same holds true for your website. Does it look modern? Does it reflect your company brand? Is it easy for visitors to find the information they need? I've seen some pretty terrible websites in the past, and I hate to say it, but amongst the CSIA membership. And it's not okay in this day and age to have a poor website. You can imagine the mixed message that a dated website gives from a company who says that they have deep technology expertise, but yet their website was maybe built in 2001. It was a long time ago. So if this is you, I suggest investing in your website in 2019. And the good news is templated websites have come a long way. So even utilizing a templated strategy, you can have a very unique website at not a high investment. So just a couple of other takeaways. Through the data I've shown today, the message is clear that engineers crave quality content. The form factor of that content is almost secondary. They're looking for a trusted source with specific technical information. So by publishing a steady stream of content, you're more likely to attract and retain visitors during long sales cycles, and you'll perform much better with Google, which is the dominant search engine of the world. And then finally, to implement a digital marketing strategy efficiently, where you track web visitors, build trust with content, and have several touches before sales engages, your next hire might need to be marketing and sales software, which helps both teams work in smarter ways and work together. So I know I've given you a lot to think about, a lot of information, and I wanted to leave you with some resources so that you could do your homework. So if you would like to see the full research report, I have a link here that you can go download research. If you would like to speak with me or someone at TREW about your marketing plans for 2019, or have us do an audit, or you're curious about what marketing automation software can do for your company, happy to engage with you. So here's some ways to reach out to me and my colleagues at TREW Marketing. And then finally, you may have come across our book. We published a book a few years ago called Smart Marketing for Engineers, and it's a very practical guide to how to build a content marketing machine for your company, and it's specifically written with CSIA membership in mind, small to medium-sized companies that are targeting technical audiences. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. Looks like I have a few here. So we have presentation slides, so you see where to find theirs now. And Lisa, you had asked, please explain the bullet point, consider hiring software as your next resource. And let me go into that in just a little more detail. So modern CRMs and marketing automation software can expose both sales and marketing exactly what a prospect is doing on your website. So you can see the pages they visit, the information they download, the emails they're opening, how many times they're revisiting your website, and what types of content attracted them. So you can imagine as a salesperson how valuable that information is, because the number and types of interactions can tell me how interested they are, how qualified they are, and it also informs the types of things I should talk to that prospect about when it's time to reach out. For the marketing person, seeing the behavior of what content is most influential in helping to guide a sale will help that marketer know what types of content to double down on, what to create more of, and maybe what content isn't being effective. You also know which forms are being filled out and which won't. So those are the types of things that marketing automation software can do. And yes, as you commented, lead scoring is another great one too. So making sure you're engaging with the right people. And I'll add one more. Lead re-engagement is very big. As many of you have a long sales cycle, you have people who aren't ready now, and maybe it takes 18 months or 2 years for them to be at a place where they're ready to hire you. So how do you stay top of mind? But also for the salesperson, what are those buying signs that that person is ready to re-engage with you? And so that's another way to use that type of software. Okay. Are there any other questions I can answer today? All right. Well, I wish everyone happy planning for your 2019 marketing. Download this research, and please feel free to reach out if you have further questions. Thanks so much for your time today.
Wendy, if you've got just one more minute, we did just get 2 more quick questions.
Sure.
What is the suggested frequency for sending e-newsletters and other emails per year using the mailing list to avoid our leads to unsubscribe?
Yeah, that's a great point, a great question. So for e-newsletters specifically, we recommend at a minimum quarterly e-newsletter cadence. And then what you can do is look at your open and click-through rate. And if you have high engagement, say 15% is an industry best practice at open rates. So say your open rate is above 15%, then your database is telling you, I really like this information, and it's giving you permission to send it more frequently. So from there you could go to bi-monthly or monthly. I would suggest, though, not touching your database more than twice monthly. We see that opt-outs tend to spike if you're sending emails once every week or twice every week. There are some exceptions to that. If someone's highly interested in a topic, you can send a series of emails all related together to that topic. But just watch your opt-out rates very closely and your open rates and let that data guide you.
Thank you. One last question, if you don't mind, and then any other questions that people may not have gotten a chance to ask, please feel free to follow up with Wendy directly or with us at CSIA, and we will make sure we get those answered. We'll just take this one last question, if that's all right. What is different about this year from past years?
On this research study, we are not actually seeing a lot of differences year over year. We were expecting to see some. I think the biggest trend is, again, as we have an age, kind of a turnover in the industry, more millennials coming up and getting into management positions. We're seeing video on the rise. We're seeing LinkedIn interactions on the rise. So you see YouTube and LinkedIn specifically as sources for information go up. But other than that, things stayed pretty consistent from years past.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I think with that we'll close it out. Did you have any last comments to make?
Nope. I think we did it. Thank you for being here today, everyone.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Wendy, and we thank you on behalf of CSIA, and thanks to all those that attended, and enjoy your holiday season, everyone. Thank you.